Big Ten championship game coming up Saturday night in Indianapolis. We got Tanner Lee on the line from Boiler Breakdown Podcast to help us break down those Boilers. Tanner, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Appreciate you being here. I don't need to tell you that nobody gives you a chance in this game. 17-point dog. But at the same time, it's kind of interesting when I survey the Big Ten Western Division, which, of course, is not perceived to be very strong this year. Balanced, but not strong. You have to tend to put Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, and Iowa into a bucket of teams that run heavy on offense, play action pass, very limited in the passing game, to be kind, and then strong defensively, with probably Iowa's a notch above because they just flat out take it away and just stifle offenses. Purdue's this complete wild card. Out of the good teams in the West, Purdue, I've seen them play a lot of football this year, and on occasion they can look sharp. They can play with Penn State as they did, and be, I don't want to say play with anyone in the country, but be a top 15 caliber team. Then on occasion, you get that 2-week stretch against Wisconsin and Iowa when they looked awful. So it's been a roller coaster ride, but as long as Aidan O'Connell's slinging it, I guess anyone that's seen upsets in the past gives this team a puncher's chance.
Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head right there. It's been an up and down roller coaster year for Purdue and for Boilermaker fans all over. But if you would have told us at the beginning of the year, you're going to Indianapolis, no matter what the record, we would have taken it. So it's been an interesting 8-4 season. But like you said, they're kind of the outlier in the Big Ten West. They like to throw the ball around. Of course, head coach Jeff Brom, that's his pedigree. That's what he did at Western Kentucky. That's what he's going to do for the rest of his coaching career. Devin Maccabee has really come on for Purdue this year, though, in the run game. He's been a real pleasant surprise, the redshirt walk-on freshman from Boonville, Indiana. And like I said, Aidan O'Connell, 6th-year senior, as long as you have him slinging the ball, you always have a punter's chance. And he was second team and third team All Big Ten this week, voted by the coaches and the media. Of course, he's been going through some difficult times with some family situations this past week, losing his older brother, Sean O'Connell. Amazingly, he still played in the Indiana game and played pretty well. And it sounds like he's going to play this week, even though he hadn't been on campus the early part of this week. But, 17-point dogs for a reason. Michigan's number 2 team for a reason. But like a lot of social media will remind you, Jeff Brom is 3-0 at Purdue against top 3 ranked teams. So anything can happen, and it's going to be a fun game Saturday night.
Yes, one of Purdue's great legacies, in addition to producing great quarterbacks, of course, is being an unranked team that knocks off top 5 teams. And that's not just Jeff Brom, although, yes, he's certainly added to it. You know, this is a history that goes back generations. We'll stay with Aidan O'Connell. Yeah, it's just horrible what happened with his brother, and for him to play through it. It's unthinkable. It's admirable. It's all those things. We won't be able to put it into words. And the motivation, the incentive, it's impossible, again, to try to predict how that is going to either weigh him down or inspire him. I guess the most famous case of that is Brett Favre years ago when his mother died on a Monday night, and he throws for 400 yards and lights it up. But Aidan O'Connell's exceptional. So we'll just stick to what we know. And he had to miss the FAU game. He took some shots to the ribs, had a rib injury. And then it was thought, I think it's fairly reasonable to think that he wasn't quite the same after that. They went run heavy against Minnesota, won that game. And where do we think he is at this point in the season in terms of his recovery from that?
I would say, he took some big shots against Iowa, too, in the loss against Iowa, the 24-3 game. Ever since that, the O-line, it seems like, has been protecting him pretty well. I'd say he's probably as healthy as he's going to be, or has been ever since the injury against Syracuse when he missed the FAU game. It's been an interesting season for Aidan. I mean, last year he went, I think, the last 6 games without throwing an interception until the Music City Bowl, which he threw a couple against Tennessee, but he also threw for over 500 yards. And this year you saw him turn it over a little more, but he also threw for a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns. So, but he also didn't have that that go-to guy in David Bell, which Charlie Jones was unbelievable this year, being a first-team All Big Ten and one of the better receivers in the country. But besides Charlie Jones, he never really had that number 2 guy come out and help him. Brock Thompson was supposed to be that guy. He re-injured his knees the first week against Penn State and didn't play the rest of the season. He did actually announce today on his social media he will be coming back next year for his 5th year. He's going to use this 1 year of eligibility left. But Aidan still had a pretty strong year. I'm really interested to see how he's going to play Saturday night. Got to think he's got to throw it, I don't know, 50 times or so probably, especially if Purdue gets down early. But I think if you ask a lot of Purdue fans, Aidan O'Connell is probably one of their favorite Boilermakers in recent memory.
Absolutely. Was not highly regarded coming out of high school and has really forged a ridiculous career there at Purdue. And again, is just the next in line of great quarterbacks that's arguably as good as any in the nation all time. You bring up Charlie Jones, of course, he escaped the Iowa offensive situation where, they got a really good team when you put it all together, but I think offensive side of the ball is just awful. And so he gets out of there and he catches, I think the number's at 97 now in terms of receptions. And, he was catching more passes per game practically than he got targets at Iowa. So he's obviously been a great find. You mentioned the transition of moving from that great stellar group of wide receivers headlined by David Bell last year to what they have this year. But Charlie Jones is certainly a guy that was a great find.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw today that Iowa's losing another wide receiver to the transfer portal. Keegan Johnson put his name in there. So that's just another Iowa wide receiver that will probably go on to another school and have some more success. But yeah, Charlie Jones has been amazing. I mean, he's a great story within himself. He grew up with Aidan O'Connell. They played football together in the youth leagues and through middle school. And I believe they went to different high schools, but then he went to Buffalo Buffalo and then transferred to Iowa as a walk-on, and then wanted to use his last year, his COVID year eligibility, his 6th year somewhere else. And I think Aidan was a big factor into why he chose Purdue, not only Jeff Brom's offense, but Aidan O'Connell. So it's been cool to see those two reconnect. And I know Charlie's been embraced big time by the Purdue fans. They've had the Chuck Sizzle t-shirts have been on sale at the bookstore this year. So he's been fun to watch. And other than him, the other biggest asset in the pass game has been Payne Durham this year. 2nd team tight end, all Big Ten tight end. Got to think he's going to be playing on Sundays come next year. I like his chances to get drafted somewhere probably in the mid rounds. But he's been Purdue's number 2 target. But it has been a little disappointing not to see some of those other wide receivers step up like a lot of us thought they would.
Tanner Lee's on the line. You can join him and the rest of the crew there at Boiler Breakdown Podcast. We've got the information on the banner throughout the segment. You mentioned Devin Maccabee. So when he finally started to get some carries and started to get some traction and caught my attention, he looked like a fast Mike Allstott, I guess, is the way I would put him to a certain extent. And the more I watched him run, I thought, man, this guy runs hard. He takes on tacklers. He doesn't shy away from contact unless it makes sense. And again, he's just a physical runner that just explodes into would-be tacklers. And then here in the last few weeks, I've noticed a little bit more, and I heard the comment made about crazy legs. I thought, okay, well, he does have a wiggle too, so he can beat you a couple different ways, and he's obviously been a great asset to the running game.
Yeah, he's been a real pleasant surprise. I kind of heard his name come up in spring ball reading reports, but didn't put too much stock into it, knowing he was going to be 4th string running back, maybe 5th string coming in behind Kendo Rue and Dylan Downing, Kobe Lewis, the transfer from Central Michigan. But then early in the season, he kind of came in that blowout win in week 2 against Indiana State and kind of put on a show. And then Kendo Rue got injured and Dylan Downey got banged up for a little bit, and all of a sudden Maccabee found himself as number 1 running back, and he took advantage of it. And I like your comparison to kind of a Mike Allstott running type. He does run hard, and he's got that crazy legs nickname because, according to Jeff Brom, his legs will be pointing one direction, he cuts back the other. And he kind of showed that off in the bucket game, the Old Oaken bucket game this past weekend against Indiana. And if he can stay healthy his whole career, I said this on our podcast earlier this week, I think he can go down as Purdue's best running back since Mike Allstott. The only other one I can think of right now is probably Corey Sheets, who graduated in '08 as Purdue's all-time leading career touchdown leader. But yeah, I'm really excited about his future. And to be honest, I wish he got more carries than he did or more receptions. I wish they got him involved in the screen game a little more. I think he's that big enough of an asset for Purdue going forward.
Hey, Tanner, when we check out the Purdue defense, what are your thoughts there in regards to the strength of the units? I know they've struggled in the secondary at times.
Yeah, and that's been really disappointing, to be honest. I knew the secondary was going to be thin in depth, but with their veteran experience back there, their starters, I thought it'd be more of a strength rather than a weakness on defense, and it's been the opposite. They've got burned over the top on big plays constantly this year. Cam Allen's back there. Corey Trice is back there. Those are two guys who have been 3-year starters, if not a little bit of 4-year starters in the program. So that's been disappointing to see. They've had some younger guys step up. Of course, Chris Jefferson, who is a big play guy, had the pick 6 against Penn State. He ended up leaving the team mid-season for some personal reasons and never returned. So that kind of hurt the defense. I think that had a bigger impact on the defense than they figured it would. But the secondary is definitely the weakness, I would say. The defensive line is probably the strength, not so much from a pass rushing perspective. I mean, you lost George Karlaftis last year, first-round pick to the Kansas City Chiefs. You're not going to fill those shoes, or at least very easily. And they haven't really had anybody pick up the pass rushing tendencies. Kydron Jenkins has been there somewhat. They've had a few freshmen kind of mixed in, but the rush defense has been pretty good for the most part this year. They did play really poorly against Iowa and poorly against Wisconsin, and maybe that's two of the reasons why they lost those two games in the fashion they did. But and then the linebackers are decent against the run, not so good on the pass. So definitely the passing defense is the weakness of Purdue. It makes me a little nervous going against Michigan. Of course, they got great running backs, even if Corum's banged up is not playing Saturday. But like Michigan proved against Ohio State on this past Saturday, they can take out the top off one of the better secondaries in the country. And so it's definitely a cause for concern going into Saturday.
Hey, Tanner, when you look at the Purdue fan base, how are they taking this trip to Indianapolis? Because I can imagine on one hand, you've got probably people that are obviously, hey, this is a shot at a Big Ten championship for the first time since 2000.
Mm-hmm.
And then other people that say, we won a watered down West and we're going to get killed and it's not going to mean much.
There's definitely perspectives on both sides there. I would say more so just in celebration that going to Indianapolis and he got a shot to shock the world, win 9 games for back-to-back seasons, go to the Rose Bowl for the 3rd time in program history, win a Big Ten championship, like I said, for the first time since 2000, Drew Brees' senior year. So, I mean, I think a lot of Purdue fans are looking at it as playing with house money right now. You won the West, which was a big goal, big accomplishment for the program, big going forward as far as recruiting is concerned. And even if you lose to Michigan, you're still probably going to a pretty good bowl. It sounds like one of the 2 Florida bowls, maybe the Citrus Bowl or the what used to be the Outback Bowl.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of it now.
It's the Outback Bowl.
Yeah, the Outback Bowl. Yeah. So, Florida Bowl would still be nice for this team. It'd be a good reward. But of course, all Purdue fans, I mean, we want to shock the world. We want to pull the carpet under for Michigan because, in my personal opinion, I think Michigan could actually lose this game and still make the playoff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's pretty consensus across the board that they've just put themselves in a position like Georgia to be able to lose it,
right,
and still make the college football playoff. One last question, Tanner, just looking at the Purdue landscape, the outlook of the fan base, expectations. Of course, we've got a changing landscape in the Big Ten with USC and UCLA coming in, most likely no divisions as indicated by Kevin Warren, and just where Purdue fans would expect. Is it just simply let's get to a bowl game every year, or are there championship expectations and aspirations? What do you think is reasonable here?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think that's why a lot of Purdue fans will go down to Indianapolis on Saturdays because they know they might not get a chance to see this for a long time, if ever again, with the divisions going away, making the Big Ten championship, I should say. I think Jeff Brom has rose the level of expectations a little bit. I mean, when he took over the program after a 4-year Darrell Hazel era, which the program only won 9 games, it wasn't hard to elevate those a little bit. But he's now taken them to this will be his 4th bowl game in 6 years. And like I said, 9 wins last year. Won the Music City Bowl over Tennessee. 8-4 again this year. Back-to-back winning records in the Big Ten for the first time since the late 90s. Back-to-back 8 wins, too, for the first time since 99-2000. So doing some feats that haven't been accomplished in Purdue in the last 20 years. I would say Purdue fans will always be happy and thrilled with going to a bowl. But I would say they definitely don't want the 6-6 seasons anymore, like they saw under Danny Hope before Darrell Hazel even took over. But look at next year's schedule. Some might say 7-5, but I think you're teetering on where 8 wins is going to kind of be the new expectation for Purdue going forward.
Okay, good stuff from Tanner Lee. Check out his podcast here with the rest of the folks there at Boiler Breakdown. It's at Boiler Break Pod if you catch it on Twitter. Anything else we need to know about your platform and where people can find you, Tanner?
Yeah, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook at Boiler Break Pods, our handle on all those. We're also on YouTube, so please go like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We try to record about once a week. We cover Purdue football and Purdue basketball, which is off to a hot start, a fun start so far this season, ranked number 5. And we usually record live, so you'll be able to tune in on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, and comment right along and ask questions. And we're also available on all your favorite podcast platforms. So go give us a subscribe, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, wherever you get your podcasts, we're probably on there. So appreciate you having me on, Mark. It's been fun.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tanner.
Thank you.